My wife did not actually want to take my last name.
Nope.
Peterson, Perkins, Peterkin.
In fact, right after we got engaged is when everything hit the fan.
Pinkerton, Peloton.
Hello everyone, I'm Jessica.
I'm Tavius.
We wanted to come on today. For those of you that are just joining us, we are college sweethearts with a mission to be able to share our love, our relationship, things that we've gone through. Most importantly, we are children of God. And so we just wanted to share, give insight on our relationship and things relative to marriage, life, and love.
Today we're actually going to be discussing how in the beginning of our relationship or our marriage relationship, my wife did not actually want to take my last name.
Nope.
In fact, right after we got engaged is when everything hit the fan. We were at the airport on our way traveling from the Bahamas back to the States. And at the airport, the family was all excited because when I proposed in front of the family, did this big old thing, sang Stevie Wonder's Ribbon in the Sky and all. And
us alone on this night I pray. Does that say words right? That a sun was night. Oh man, the sun is a star too.
After I sang the song, I just got to give this little brief history before I get to the next part. After I sang the song, mind you, she was actually recording the whole thing. And when I dropped on one knee and I gave my little speech and everything and asked her to marry me, she kept me waiting, y'all. Like, seriously kept me waiting. Like, my heart is pumping extremely fast. I thought I was going to pass out. Like, I've never been so scared.
On that note, I would like to say that Jessica Denise Brayton, you are the most special woman in my life. I love you very, very much with all of me and everything that a man can. I thank God for you every day. And I told you a long time ago that I was not going anywhere. So I guess I would like to know, will you marry me? I'm waiting. Yes? Yes.
So you see that? Yes, she kept me waiting. We're at the airport and my beautiful bride-to-be in discussing about wedding and stuff, and she gets asked, so what's gonna happen with the whole last name? Is she gonna change her name? Is she gonna hyphenate her name? This is coming from our grandmother, by the way, and she gives this look instantly and says, no, I'm keeping my last name. And it was like a knife just went through my heart, y'all. Like,
You're like, give me that ring back. Oh, no, I'm scared. Let me explain from my perspective, because I don't want you guys to think like I'm just this callous girl. I had always pursued my career of becoming a dentist. So a doctor of dental medicine, doctor of dental surgery. I knew that that was where I was headed since I was in high school. And so being in a relationship with Tavius came new, right? You know, we were only together about 1.5 years, 2 years at that point. So I knew at some point I was gonna be called Doctor, and I had worked so hard as Jessica Brayton, so I knew I wanted to be Dr. Brayton. So none of that other stuff mattered. Like at that moment when that question was asked, all I saw was being Dr. Peterkin. The Peterkins didn't do anything for me. Like, and you know, obviously I won't get into detail relative to that, but I would say that from my perspective, it was more or less like, if I become a doctor and I put his name there, it will end up being a dishonor to not only me as a person who I've been my entire life and the hard work that I've put in to get to where I'm at, but then to the family that I came from. So he would never, I'll put this out there. No man will ever understand. The women that are watching this, that are married, that have gone through it, you understand, especially if you have some type of allegiance or a relationship with your family or proud of who you are, where you come from, it's very difficult to just completely erase that. Like you go through an identity crisis, like what? Like now I want to be with this person. I didn't know how to change who I am. Now I can't be who I've been. When you have a higher level degree, it's really difficult to just want to give all that up for the sake of a name. Like, but I'll say that for me personally, Tavius can't really talk much this show, just so y'all know.
You never been through what I've been through. I done been through so much.
He went through his own stuff too. So this video is specifically discussing what the woman faces and the challenges that we face, but I'm sure that the guys have their own challenges too, right, babe?
We do.
Telling a story about...
In the beginning of our marriage, she... although we were Mr. and Mrs., pronounced as Mr. and Mrs. Tavius J. Peterkin or what have you, at our wedding ceremony, the reality was she did not take my last name right away. In fact, it was what, about a year?
No, it wasn't a year.
6 months then?
It was a little less than 6 months because I came to Arizona, I think in February for my birthday.
Yeah.
And so my birthday is the beginning of February. We got married at the end of August. So it was a little less than 6 months.
Okay, so nearly 6 months that went through where she kept her last name. And oftentimes when people met me, because she was in school and, you know, building up her education, people meeting me, I was often referred to as Mr. Brayton, which was not...
That's my daddy, y'all.
Right, I am a Peterkin, and not to, you know,
my daddy's bomb.
make light or anything
of
my father-in-law, because I love my father-in-law. He's good people. But clearly I am not a Brayton.
We have a son named Brayton.
I am married to a Brayton.
Ask me how that happened. It's difficult all the way around for everyone involved, and you just have to make sure that you have a thorough discussion about the outcomes. So what ended up, you know, tipping the scale towards changing my last name was, first and foremost, I got tired of trying to explain how to pronounce it. And I knew that when I got to the clinic, I wasn't gonna deal with that every day because I have attitude problems sometimes. So Peterkin is easier to pronounce, at least I thought, because I still get Peterson, Peterskin, Perkins, Peterkinson, Pinkerton, Peloton, all these random names, but at least they're not saying Breeden, Breton, you know, you get the point. But aside from that, I knew that we wanted children, and I didn't want my children to have a divided household where mom is called one thing, dad is called the other, and they get confused about which last name is which, and accidentally calling dad by the mom's last name. I just didn't want that. I want our kids to be proud of who they are and for us to build a legacy of our own. And to be honest, I come from a family where even though they didn't think about this from that perspective before, they're proud of their last name, and it's their last name given by their dad. It's their dad's last name, and even, you know, down to the wife who took on the last name, like they are proud of that last name, like to the T, and like they are proud to be who they are. They're proud of their bloodline. They'll go hard for that last name, and I want my kids to be the same. So for me, I'm gonna let that be Peterkin, and I'm gonna do it well. So I am Dr. Peterkin. I didn't change anything about my maiden last name. What I ended up doing though is when I went to the Social Security office, they did have me to tell them what I wanted to be called. And when it came down to hyphenating, I just felt like it was just gonna be too much. Like Brayton already has 1, 2, 3, B-R-E-R-E-T-O-N, 8 letters, P-E-T-E-R-K-I-N, 16 letters in my last name plus a hyphen, no thanks. I was like, I'm not doing that. So what I ended up doing is I changed my middle name through Social Security office, and I just let that be my maiden name. So my name legally is Jessica Brayton Peterkin, whereas before I got married, it was just Jessica Brayton. And so sometimes I know Tavis, he was trying to act like he don't be like mad, but like my Facebook name recently, I changed it back to Jessica Brayton, and he like,
oh, you changed it back? Okay.
but that's my first and middle name, so it's fine. I'm not pushing your last name other way. It's like my name was Mary Ann. If I put Mary Ann, you would be mad because that's my first and middle name. Jessica Brayton is my first and middle name. I just don't want everybody to be able to find me online. But anyway, just thought I'll tell y'all right now on camera.
When it came to this whole last name thing, I can honestly say that we had both gone through quite a bit concerning the last name change and or keeping maiden names. And for me, I had finally just settled on the fact that, okay, you know what, it is what it is. I love this person enough to just squash the whole thing. Was I completely settled initially? No. And so in that regard, I had to stay before the Lord and praying about things to help me to make sure that I'm calm and collected whenever the subject came up, because it really irritated me, because I honestly, me being husband, I felt dishonored. And that's really, in a nutshell, what it was about to me, is at the end of the day, like, you're marrying me, not your dad, not the people you come from.
And not your family either.
Right, but you marrying me, and this is who I am. And so, yeah. And plus, I didn't feel like, you know, you had to lose out who you actually were, or were at the time as a whole person, just because you changed your last name to being my last name.
So ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're trying to convey in this video is just do the last name change. If you guys know that it's a point of contention in your household, you have nothing to lose, everything to gain. I mean, at the very least, you can always put your maiden name as your middle name, or have two last names. But the issue, like I said before, you have to consider your children. You have to consider the legal ramifications as it relates to that. Because a lot of times, if you have both as if you have two last names, what they end up doing is choosing the first one. And my first last name would be Brayton. I wouldn't put that at the end. I did think about being, you know, Brayton-Kin or Peterkin, but Tavis said no. So ultimately, at the end of the day, like, our point of contention was the last name thing. And, you know, Tavis didn't give me an ultimatum because he knew it was going to be my decision, and he didn't want to force me to do it. But after 6 months of dealing with minor issues relative to that, I was just like, do I want to deal with that for the rest of my life? And the answer is no. And I didn't want to also have to fight with trying to get my licenses changed over, with having to you know, change it in the place of work when it came to patients who they referred to me as. It just made more sense to go ahead and do what I knew I was going to do eventually, versus protesting and being like, oh, let me have rights, because I do have my rights. I still run this house regardless of who last name. But anyway, and then the blessing of it all is that now I have a dental practice, and my dental practice carries the name. So it's Brayton Family Dental, which is my maiden last name, but Dr. Peterkin is the owner. Like, how cool is that? Win-win. And my son name is Brayton. Our son name is Brayton. Yeah. So change your last name. There's a lot to gain, because then my husband is happy and he gives me all the things. So, all right, until next time. Bye, guys.